Join us today on the Final Hour podcast as we discuss an axis of evil organizations looking to take your freedom.
We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name is Jim Hammond, and
I'm Lonaiah Farrell.
And I'm John Gapp.
And we have our producer.
Hello. Hey, what's up, Jerry?
Jerry.
Jerry.
How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Jerry's had a long couple weeks.
He deals with me on a regular basis.
Poor guy.
No.
Poor guy.
Yes,
Pork.
and so...
Pray for him.
Today, do you want to say what the date is today, Jim?
What is the date? The date today?
Today is May 11th.
May 11th. So this will air, is it Monday night, May 15th?
Tuesday night, May 16th.
Okay. Midnight, May 15th?
12:01, Jim.
Okay.
We changed that because you didn't understand the time.
Fair enough.
Yes, I wish you could have
You
all...
and Kamala Harris have the same depiction of time. Today is today.
Today.
Yesterday was today.
That's not actually
and
what she said.
tomorrow will be today. Basically, is what she said.
Today is today. And tomorrow is today of the future.
So, Jim and Kamala have the same time knowledge.
Okay, Linnea. Drink some more coffee, Linnea.
That's
I
hurtful.
will.
Is that from today?
It was
It's
from yesterday's.
The yesterday's today.
It's from yesterday's
It was
today?
from today,
Yeah.
yesterday.
You've only had a little bit of coffee then, because I looked in the fridge, and that's all that was in there.
I know.
So you haven't...
I know. You need me to get hyped up.
That's going to make a difference, Linnea.
All right, I promise. By the
You're
time
nice
you're done
and
with page
fresh.
3, I'll be funnier.
You're not funny when you're not drinking coffee, Linnea. Okay.
She rolls
All right.
in funny.
Thank you,
Okay.
John. Get no credit from Jim. See what I deal with?
Everybody's feeling a little spicy today, I think.
Are we? Yeah, I think so.
I think maybe. I don't know.
Well, we're doing a little bit different type of show today.
Yeah.
And we're viewing... I viewed a show at I think it was 4 a.m. in the morning, yesterday morning, called the International Reporters
Yesterday's
Roundtable.
today. Look, you smiled. All
That's
right.
because, Linnea, you have a natural gift of comedy.
Thank you.
Yes.
Finally.
Yes. People, when they think Linnea, they
Think funny.
funny,
Yeah.
Comedy.
right? Mm-hmm. And so it's called the International Reporters Roundtable.
It sounds very exciting.
On a channel called NTD News.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan. Well,
Not today, devil.
yeah, not today, Devil News.
I was going with
That's good.
today, but
Oh, okay.
It's really not today, Devil, but it's called
No.
NTD
Okay.
News. I have only 17 channels. I don't have cable, and so I guarantee you, most of you have NTD News, right? Because
John,
if
do
it-
you?
if
I
it's on-
do.
do- yeah, it's
Well,
if you really know, it's
I
way
don't watch
down
it, but-
the channel thing.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
37.
I haven't.
But if you really want to know what's going around the world, you should check out NTD News. It's the last real news organization in the world.
It's connected to Epoch Times.
Yes.
Okay.
Epic, Epoch, either way.
I don't know what they
Say either one.
It looks like both.
But
That's epic.
and a lot of Larry Elder, a lot of
I love
they have a whole hours on China, and they have a whole hour on Britain,
Very smart.
whole hour on California.
Wow.
But it's what's going on, all the things that they're trying to sneak by us, which are a lot. And so we're just simply making public information that's hidden.
But do you think they're doing it on purpose that they don't want us to know? Like,
This
I
today?
actually
well, just most things. Like,
So-
well, yeah, for sure what we're going to talk about today, but
I just sent you
I saw
an
that.
article. So there are so many things that actually you go ahead and get into this. I'm going to pull up this article and when you're done.
But we're making public hidden information and details today of alliances and connections concerning the push for a one world government. They like to call it a global reset. And what we're talking about today is the World Health Organization, the WHO, the United Nations, the UN, and the World Economic Forum, the WEF, all working hand in hand to reach their goal for global governance, the Great Reset. So, did you find that, John?
Yeah. Basically, you can call it the cabal, you can call it whatever these organizations are that are trying to masquerade as government, to take control of the world and to bring everybody under the same global politic system. Basically, they see our ignorance. So if we don't know what's going on, or our inaction, that gives them the consent that says that we have consented to their tyranny and their ruling. So you have to see what's going on, and you have to speak up.
Yep.
To be able to fight what is going on. Otherwise, they will take it as their right to do whatever they want to do. I mean, they've announced they want 500 million people alive on this earth.
Yes, they want that.
That is what they've announced it. It's public, and they have to make it public. Otherwise, it's secret, and they can't call it permission. But if you don't speak up and you don't fight back, they look at it as permission, as we have consented to be part of it.
And
that's why we're discussing it today.
That's why we're discussing it today. Yeah,
it's not a conspiracy. The sad thing is you've probably got 200 million Americans that don't know anything about any of this and don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that's the inaction. That's the lack of care. Because they just we'll just let our government take care of it.
If I could vote for a candidate, I don't care what party. That would get up there and in every speech, day after day after day, while they're running for president, just expose all this stuff.
Expose it all.
If they just gave the speech, what we're talking about today, I would vote. That's a dream candidate for me.
Is that person going to get in? With the
they could if they present the information correctly.
Yeah.
But I'm saying they're not going to allow that person because they're going to cheat.
Well, yeah, and because there are part of this.
I didn't say they did. I said they could.
There are part of this system on both sides,
right? Of course.
And if you think that you're the side that you're on, your political side,
I'm watching my words, Jim.
If you think that your political side is the one that's right and has no interference from this kind of junk, you're absolutely wrong.
Right, and I would vote for that person as well.
Because this covers both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, all these guys, we don't know who's who, right? And
we know
and you're talking about we know what?
We know who.
We know who
is.
Yeah, the World Health Organization.
Who is who?
but
thank you, Kamala.
A lot of the Republicans are on board with the UN, what the UN's trying to do,
right?
Which is really no difference than what the other two,
right?
Absolutely, they are all intertwined.
Yeah, and so,
and isn't it interesting that the UN isn't that where the Antichrist comes out of?
Well, I mean,
we don't know.
More or less, it's supposed to be out of that European collection, which is all very much intertwined with the UN.
Huh.
You've got the United Nations, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization. If they have their way, our freedoms are going to be gone. This is not a joke. What they want is global overhaul of how we live our lives. The WHO justifies it in order to prevent another disastrous pandemic. Okay.
Can I say one thing? Because I was listening. Sorry, I know we're interrupting you a lot.
No, it's you're supposed to interrupt today because this is what we're talking about.
But I raised my hand, everybody. Right. So I was listening to Jack Hibbs.
Lonaiah?
Thank you, Mr. Hammond.
Yes.
I was listening to Jack Hibbs' podcast, and he was saying that I'm just going to quote him directly because this quote was amazing. But he said, this could create a global governance that has not been around since the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
And this Jack Hibbs guy, it's interesting because Lonaiah was looking at this. He did 2 45-minute sessions basically on what we're doing.
Yep.
On these organizations.
Yeah,
Right.
This is the Lord.
Yes.
I know if Jack Hibbs is doing this.
Yeah, he was actually
At the same
doing
time,
a series on Romans, and he
Yes.
was like, "Whoa, I need to take a break because I need to show you." Like he's like, even in the last 3 weeks, things have shifted so much that I need to make you guys aware. So if you don't know who he is, he's a pastor out in California who is, like he brings so many amazing things. Like
Yep.
he does a
Yep.
lot of podcasts with Charlie Kirk and exposes his congregation to
Check
a lot
out
of
both
stuff.
of
So
those
he's in
guys.
Calvary Hills.
Jack
He had
Hibbs.
Charlie Kirk there like a week
like
ago.
a
or-
week ago. So he's phenomenal.
But the UN is justifying what, one world. They want a one world government due to rapid climate change. The WEF, World Economic Forum, is trying to push us into a fourth industrial revolution.
Right.
And this will all point to a loss
Yeah.
of national liberty,
For sure.
sovereignty for each and every person, not just the U.S., but
No.
worldwide.
Yes.
These globalists feel it as if they know what all the little peons
Yep.
like us in the world need. They know how we need to live.
Yeah.
And we want to look at their agendas. How long this stuff has been going on, because this isn't new. This goes back to the 1950s. Really, it's been a long process, and we want to tell you exactly what their end game is, which
Yep.
basically Revelation. I'll
Right.
tell you that.
But they're going to package it and sell it as something good and something
You
to
guys-
take stress
For your own
off
safety.
of all of
Let me
all
just
of the
give you
people.
a quote from the WHO Director General.
Who?
John. Just if you Google
World Health
who is the,
Organization. Okay, go ahead. Just tell John who is.
but he says this is a reason. Like he's explaining the reason why we all need to get together, for us not to let our guard down, to dismantle the system it has brought us, or send a message to people that COVID, because he's talking about COVID, is nothing to worry about. We are going to create something that will keep everybody protected, and we are able to implement in real time. That is
Just like they
his
kept
quote.
everybody protected during COVID.
But he was saying the reason that we had 700 million deaths, or whatever it is, 7 billion deaths, whatever, I don't know the exact number, was because they didn't have control over each country.
which
so they
is
couldn't do what they wanted to do. So this
obviously
gives
a
them
joke, because what they pushed after they already had vaccines and vaccinations, they had jabs. People kept dying, and the people who have been getting it haven't fared as well.
And you're saying 7 billion, but I thought 250,000 people die every day on the earth.
I'm just
That's
saying what he
correct.
said was people
If
died of
250,000
COVID.
people
but-
die,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
But he
million
was-
in 4 days.
Right, million for.
But
That's
he was saying these people
7
didn't need to
million
die
in
because
28 days.
we could have controlled it. But do you guys remember what they were doing for COVID? Like 6 feet apart.
Oh, yeah.
Masks, which they said don't do anything. So when I see people driving in cars with masks, I'm like, why?
But what we're doing is we're just watching,
They have
right?
pimples.
And the Bible tells you to do this in Revelations chapter 2 and 3. Jesus Christ himself, in these times, the World Economic Forum exists to prop up the global Western ruling class elites. And the main agenda of the World Economic Forum right now is to make it easy for people that are already in charge, who committed large-scale power grabs in the name of the coronavirus and the pandemic. They want to further extend their power. The supposed purpose of the World Health Organization, they will tell you, is to secure the health of all people around the world.
Sure.
And that is a joke. Initially, the U.S. joined the WHO thinking, well, that's a valid goal. But I'll tell you something. The U.S. agreed in joining the World Health Organization that any decision the WHO makes, the U.S. is not required to buy into those decisions.
Not to abide.
But over the last 20 years, that's radically changed.
Right.
The member countries of WHO, which is the nations of the world, basically, I believe it's 194 nations, only contribute 16% of the money covering the budget
Wow, that's not very much.
for the WHO.
Guess
And
who does?
The other 84%,
Bill Gates.
the biggest donor being Bill and Melinda Gates. Hello.
Oh my gosh, shocker.
Followed by closely
China.
followed by China.
Yes. And so, you guessed it, all the rich elitists of the World Economic Forum are the big donors for the World Health Organization, and the WHO is just building out something called the Pharmaceutical Hospital Industrial Emergency Complex.
Yeah.
That's called the Pharmaceutical Hospital Industrial Emergency Complex. What that's saying is, as long as pandemics are profitable to these people,
They are.
we're going to keep seeing pandemics.
Absolutely.
Well, did you hear that Anthony Fauci said 3 weeks ago that there's going to be another pandemic in 2024?
Yeah. And well, Biden said it.
Yeah, they've
Biden
all
keeps
said
saying there's another pandemic coming.
Of course, because look how much money they've all made.
Right.
And they're not going away, because this is how they not just maintain control, they get more control. And that's what they're going to shoot
more
for.
money.
And the United States nations, from the very beginning, if you study it out, was intended to become a one world government.
Right.
Where are we getting our information from? These guys that have spent at least the last decade trying to expose this stuff, Google them.
Yeah.
Check out the books. They have many books on this, many different subjects. Jordan Schachtel, that's SCHAS or CHTEL, Alex Newman, and James Roguski.
I like the James Roguski guy. I get a lot of his Substack
Yeah.
opinions. They're very good.
These are educated, intelligent, investigative reporters that have spent their lives doing this, and the people responsible for creating the UN. Let me give you an example. The U.S. Secretary of State, when the UN was created, was a guy named John Foster Dulles. Wrote a book that came out in 1950 that straight up says the reason for the formation of the United Nations is to eventually turn into a one world government or one world federation. No one wants to study this out.
So he said this in 1950.
Yeah. These guys studied this out. They have the quotes. They studied these people.
Right.
That comes from world-renowned author Alex Newman. All these guys have sold millions of books. The WHO is the very component of the UN, a big component.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have the World Economic Forum bringing some of the largest businesses in the world to the table for this economic and cultural transition they are calling the Great Reset.
Yep.
The WHO has put out 300 amendments.
Oh.
And they are already instituting. These amendments haven't even been passed.
No.
A command and control type operation for these amendments. And what is so concerning is through the treaty process, they are looking to control everything, as we said before. Let me just say this, and then, Lonaiah, then I will call on you. If we get into a treaty with them, our government, with the World Economic Forum, handing over in the midst of a pandemic, our government would hand over governance to them. No president,
You guys, once this bill is signed, it goes into they can immediately act upon it. All of your rights are immediately taken away. Can I just read a few of the highlighted amendments that I saw today? Are you done?
Did you want to say something?
Yes,
okay.
Please. Okay, so
Hammond?
This is a few of the highlights. They would remove the existing language that grants full respect for the dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms of persons. They're actively attempting to eliminate dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. They want to change the recommendations from non-binding to legally binding, such that all members and countries must obey and implement them immediately. They want to create requirements for digital vaccine passports. They will be used to restrict access and travel as to how the WHO sees fit and where. Require surveillance of online information and suppression of information deemed misinformation and disinformation. Remember when they tried to create the board of mis and disinformation? Yeah. This is how they're doing it, guys.
Exactly.
Coerce extreme lockdown measures, including the creation of quarantine of suspect travelers, preferably in facilities away from the point of entry, aka quarantine camps, seen during the COVID-19 pandemic in China and elsewhere. Australia. Allow the WHO Director General to declare an emergency at will. At will. If he decides it's an emergency, he can declare it. require nations to use certain medications while prohibiting the use of others during emergencies. We saw that here.
They control all of
Right.
the shipping, supply of the medications,
Yep.
the profit on the medications, all of it. They're
Yep.
creating the medications.
One more. Allow the WHO to commandeer medical supplies in any country, which is what Jim was just saying, transfer them to other countries and evade laws on intellectual property. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And if
That's just a few of the amendments. They have
Let's-
300.
Yeah, it just erases borders. It
Yeah.
erases any of the rules that control corporations and what do you call these people? These organizations from having to follow. They get to do what they want because they just erase the rules to let them through.
Crazy.
Cut all of the bureaucracy through it.
If we're in a treaty with the World Health Organization, if our government signs a treaty and they declare a worldwide pandemic, your freedom is gone.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
and
is
gone.
that is when
On-
you will see a revolt in America.
yeah, and I
Well,
was
it depends. You know, can't you see them just kind of doing a little bit at a time, though?
But
They're not
I
just
think
gonna
this
slam
vote
it
is
down.
coming. I mean,
It's
we have
again.
an action again because Botswana
Yeah.
is the only country last year that said no, we're not signing,
Right.
and they have to have 194
Yep.
countries that all agree to it. But this is coming, and there's a action. Like there's a point of action, like a link to action that you can click on this podcast, and you can send notes to your congressmen, senators, to the White House to tell them you don't want to partake in this. Because I think the meeting is coming up in the next week or two.
Yeah. It was May last year when the first one was coming
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
And
I texted you that, John, so make sure you sign that today.
High five.
Okay. You too, Jeremiah.
if you really want to get into the real details here, I mean,
2023.
we found it in 20 seconds. It's a 45-minute interview with these people.
It's really good.
Check the link that we have. It's the only link we have for this episode outside of you signing.
The link to action.
Yeah, but check this out because these guys are the real deal. They're not just dudes that are drumming up conspiracy theories in their basement. They've studied all this stuff. This is something straight out of the Marxist communist philosophy, where they would control. Talking about the WHO, they would have control over the population. They would set up logistics network where they would take 5% of everything spent, 20% of the product would be given to them for free. In regards to the UN, there's something called Agenda 21.
Crazy. Agenda 21.
That was signed back in 1992 by the evil George Bush Sr. Not a good guy. I don't care what any of you say. He's not a good guy.
Points of light.
He's part of this whole deal. And George Bush Sr. believed in empowering the UN, and he actively called for eventually a new world order.
Yeah.
Study it out. Agenda 21 that was signed off by the UN and all those member nations in 1992 is an agenda that controls every area of life, every area of environment, every area of government. It deals with education. It deals with healthcare. It will eventually control your life. This is the UN agenda for the 21st century. Agenda 21 is saying in order to preserve the planet for future generations, every single area of our lives needs to be transformed by them. By the UN.
That's always it.
Yeah.
It's for the children.
Did
it's
you
for
guys
the future.
see? Did
no,
you
it's
guys
for
see
your control.
that in New York now
Yeah.
that they're banning any gas stoves?
Gas stoves
for 20 in new buildings in
Yep.
2025.
New buildings or buildings over 7 stories.
And then they're moving on. Now it's dishwashers. I saw that. It's so dumb. It's so dumb, but you like. And by 2030,
Are you talking
all-
about like the appliance dishwashers or people in a restaurant that are?
No, appliance dishwashers.
Gotcha.
So you can't do your dishes anymore.
Well, not.
What about
I don't know. It's
dishwashers
saying they're
in
trying to
a
ban the
restaurant?
dishwashers.
By hand.
And in California, they banned diesel trucks by 2030, and they all have to be electric.
Well, they did that here too, right?
Well, they actually banned it. Like, was a law passed by the great Newsom guy.
Listen,
Winner.
U.S. Senate never ratified this Agenda 21. It has been definitely set in motion, going back to Clinton. Agenda 21 deals with every nation in the UN, every government, and it has flown under the radar. It's been patiently and carefully put into place, starting with Bill Clinton. He signed executive orders to institute these policies of Agenda 21 into our federal agencies, starting with that. This is a total bipartisan support, right? And it just makes you wonder about the Republicans that we have. Right. In Washington, D.C., it's being implemented around the world. Also, the UN has something called Agenda 2030. And the UN operates on a set of plans that goes every 15 years. They had an agenda go through 2015. They're in the middle of their Agenda 2015 through 2030.
And remember, we are not meeting their goals, so they're having an emergency meeting in New York in June.
Scrambling.
But this is a comprehensive plan over every area of our lives. It's like the mini plan for Agenda 21. And when this little plan called Agenda 2030 was being adopted by the head of the General Assembly of the UN, when this was being adopted, Peter Thompson, the head of the General Assembly, called this the Master Plan for Humanity.
Wow.
Yes.
I don't want that.
The UN has a master plan.
Of course they do.
For humanity.
It's very ominous.
They have a plan for you?
I don't want
It sounds like, doesn't it sound like they just take verses out of the Bible and twist them to their own to their own will?
Almost exactly.
Honestly.
And Jerry?
For the plans I have for you. Oh, sorry.
You're not going to like the plan.
It's right there.
And I said Jerry, but that doesn't.
Jerry.
I'm not calling Jeremiah 29:11 Jerry 29:11. It's Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts and plans that I have for you, says the Lord. Thoughts and plans for welfare and peace, not for evil, to give you hope in your final outcome.
Yes.
In the final hour.
Isn't that amazing that God gave you scripture from like thousands of years ago that you can use today? That's like, hello.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing new under the sun. That's what the Bible says. So it's forever and ever. It's true.
And trust me, Agenda 2030 by the UN is not the plans that God's talking about.
No. The master plan for humanity does not come from Peter Thompson.
Secretary General of the UN at the time.
Wow. These people are just so interesting.
Well, when they made Agenda 30 back in 2015, to Agenda 2030, the UN Secretary General at that time was Dan Ki-moon.
Of course it was.
And he called this the Global Declaration of Interdependence.
You know,
another twist of
verbiage.
Yeah.
Which is a
Declaration
direct
of Independence
attack on our Declaration of Independence. We already have a Declaration of Independence.
Who voted these people in?
We don't need the UN.
They're nominated by their own people to represent at the UN, and then the UN amongst themselves.
Doesn't it show you like when the wrong person gets power, what happens?
Absolutely.
Agenda 2030 deals with your health, your environment, your food systems, education, deals with every possible area of your life. It's no different than the Great Reset the World Economic Forum is proposing.
Have you guys seen the
same thing?
The hashtag that's going around that's called the Great Reset. It's opposing the Great Reset.
Is it like Brexit?
Yeah. It's funny.
What do you mean?
Like a hashtag, like when you Google a hashtag and like you Google the Great Reset, but if you Google, that's my hashtag. But you Google the Great Reset, it like has everybody who's against this plan and against the Great Reset, like, so you tag your post. It's pretty funny.
I like it.
I'm telling you, the World Health
We
Organization.
can plan words too.
That's right.
And the UN and the World Economic Forum are all working together. And it's very obvious. And their objective is a one world system where the sovereignty of nations is gone.
Absolutely.
All individual liberty, any recognition of the belief that we all come from a creator will be completely abolished and outlawed. We know that from Revelation.
Right.
This is where this is heading. I mean, Revelation says exactly where we'll be. You see it, Oh, gee, what a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence, Lonaiah. The Bible got it right. I mean, we're going.
Shocker.
We're heading to what the Bible. You're not going to hear anything about this in ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, because this is what they want. This is all under the table.
You barely even hear it at Fox.
Yeah.
No, not anymore. And that's
That's why NTD News, like,
probably-
I'm impressed with them. Like, look at what they're putting out there.
Well, you got like Larry Elder on there. Larry Elder's a rock star. He's awesome.
Well, I don't watch the news, but
Well, we know
Anything.
the World Economic Forum meets every year in Switzerland. That's called the Davos Conference. But this is kind of under the radar.
where all the people show up in their jets, even though they're fighting climate change.
Yeah, no one else can. No one else can fly in a jet.
Who's our guy? John? What's his name? He's an older gentleman. I think he worked with the Clintons. John Kerry.
Oh yeah.
And he flies his private jet all over the place, and he is the head of the United States Climate Change Action Plan. Just like Kamala Harris is in charge of the borders and AI. She's the czar for those.
As we have how many people?
I love that we have
700,000 migrants crossing the border, and I don't know if you.
And how long?
And how long? That's the question.
Well, today they're coming today because.
Today.
But you guys, yesterday I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw Kara Levin say that we have a ton of migrants coming.
Yeah.
They're flying to Canada and they're coming through the northern border into Minnesota.
Right.
So
Why wouldn't they?
Minnesotans,
Why wouldn't they?
start praying for your borders.
So they have the COVID restrictions came off. So that means
Can we talk about borders and sovereignty
Yes,
real quick?
please, John.
come on in.
I've had this conversation on social media before. People were like, "Why is it so important for you to keep these people out?" And I was like, "The reason we have borders is because our country has sovereignty. We have the option and the necessity to protect our citizens from people coming in to do things that are not lawful, to do things that are not right. And to do that, you have to be able to screen and know who is coming into your country. Our country is very free and very inviting, and people get passes and visas and green cards to come to the United States all the time.
I'm all for that.
That is great, and our country is built on immigration. Our country is stronger because of immigration. But once you bypass that and you are not submitted to that country and don't let yourself be counted and be part of that system to integrate into it, then you are breaking the law. The idea of sovereignty is we get to decide who is here. We get to decide what is best. We don't have to give in to. If you go to Israel, if you go to France, if you go to Russia, if you go to any African country, you have to go through security. And if you don't, you will be treated as a criminal. If you are found in this country and you get stopped by an authority, you will be treated as a criminal.
Not in this country.
No, but it should be.
But when you get your visa and your all those things, don't you have to take like the history of the United States? You have to learn everything about the country and sign a decree.
Citizenship.
Yeah,
test.
which is amazing.
We've
but
already reported that it's a known fact that the Central and South American countries are emptying their prisons.
Yes, and
running
sending them
right
here.
up through our border. There's reason number one. You just don't let anyone in.
But they want to give these people the right to vote. I mean, obviously, that's why they're letting them all in.
They're giving people driver's licenses.
You can be a police officer in California.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
Like an M13, or what is it? What's that game?
MS-13.
Yeah, they could be a police officer in California.
It's different than PG-13.
It's a lot different.
Yeah.
They're violent.
The World Economic Forum is meeting now in China, in Beijing. They also meet in this year in June, and they partner with global major businesses, central bankers, venture capital institutions, people that have enormous amounts of money and power. And really what they're trying to do is they bring all these people together with a lot of heads of state in there, and they're ensuring that they stay on top, that they retain the power they have while how they're all the time gaining more power. And listen, they want a feudalistic structure where you have a ruling body of them, and then you have everyone else.
Yep.
And the World Economic Forum have dozens of staff headquartered in China. Klaus Schwab's son runs the China operation
interesting.
in Beijing for the WEF.
That's very interesting.
Headquarters in China. So the WEF
You're doing very good, son.
Yes.
I didn't know he had kids.
Yeah, well, we should look him up. He's
So
actively,
hatched from embryos.
they're trying to bring big business together with the Chinese Communist Party. All right. And Klaus Schwab founded the World Economic Forum. At one time was just a little European institution.
Yeah.
And then Klaus Schwab went to Harvard and for some studies. And then next thing you know, the WEF is a huge institution, and that's a whole nother story
That
in itself.
is so crazy.
He got a bunch of help from Harvard, and he's published many
Who
books.
was in Harvard at the time as Klaus Schwab? Go ahead.
Explaining the Great Reset. He's done books on this.
George Bush. George W.
This is how you go down the rabbit hole on your phone. Like
Yeah.
you can spend hours just clicking names on Wikipedia. Like that's what I do.
Where?
Bet you George Bush was there. George W.
Yeah.
Dude,
would
with
not
Klaus
surprise
Schwab,
me.
how old is Klaus Schwab?
He's really old.
Very old.
Maybe
Okay.
senior.
You mean
Did
the senior?
go to Harvard?
I'm Googling it, guys. I'll have an
Senior was
answer
in
soon.
the CIA in the 60s. So
There's a whole story behind Klaus Schwab and Harvard. We just didn't have the time to look into it. But
I
listen,
love the Harvard.
we all. This is the Great Reset. We're all going to own nothing, and we'll be happy. And they call it stakeholder capitalism, but all it is a left-wing monetary policy where they spread the money out among the peons, and the people at the top are ruling the peons. That's us.
Will not be subject to the same rules
No.
that the peons get.
Yeah, it's like a medieval feudal system. Remember, you had the lords in the castles on the hill
The lords.
at the top of the hill, and you had the peasants at the bottom. They called them serfs. They owned nothing, and they worked the lord's
So
land.
everybody's a serf except for these guys.
Yes, this is what
The elites.
This is what they
Speaking of
want.
Davos and one serf who was hungry, one time Shia LaBeouf crashed accidentally the Davos
Are you serious?
convention.
That's
He
actually funny.
He went to a hotel and the convention was going on, and he just was hungry, so he just crashed the food. And
He grabbed a plate and
he
started
got,
eating?
He got tossed out of.
They
out
didn't
of
want
Davos.
Shia LaBeouf there. He was transforming.
I don't know how old he was when that happened.
That's
but
funny.
It's a funny.
He
story
got
tells.
saved.
I know, like radically.
Yeah, he did.
It's pretty cool.
It
to
is
listen
pretty
to him
cool.
talk.
It's that's a Transformer kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And what movie was that? There was a movie where he made where
Peanut Butter Falcon.
Peanut
no,
Butter
no.
Falcon's
Well, that's
one
a
of
good
my
one.
favorite.
where he was
I
on
love that one.
House Arrest, and
Yeah.
the girl.
Oh,
moves
the
in
girl.
there.
Yes,
What is
the
that
the
show?
murder stalker movie.
All I know
It
is
was a good
It's
movie.
not something
Starts
that you
with
should
a
want to
D.
show your 12-year-old
Yeah.
necessarily.
No,
No.
it's
Speaking
wild.
of,
I loved it.
when the Hunger
Sorry.
Games came out, we didn't pre-watch it before we watched it with
Yeah.
our 12-year-old son at the time, and our poor little Caden still has like nightmares from
was a
the
wild-
Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Well, my son.
He was like, ah, like the whole time, and I was like, you're fine.
You're fine.
My son had
Suck it up.
nightmares from the bad lady in 101 Dalmatians.
Cruella
Cruella.
DeVille,
Yeah.
Cruella
Scared
DeVille,
him.
Cruella DeVille.
He was only
If
like
she
5,
doesn't
6,
scare
7.
you, no evil thing will.
Yeah, well, he scared my son. And so Klaus Schwab, he's
Hey,
viewing Americans.
we were good there.
Got it.
He views Americans who believe in individual liberty and freedom as his biggest threat.
Yeah, it's
Of
evil.
course he
We are
does.
literally
evil Americans.
we are the last ones stopping him and his agenda. Okay, there's no one else.
You must stand up.
And what would you call us? About half of America? But I think we're more
Maybe.
than half. I
Yeah.
think there's more than half. I think they just don't want us to know how many.
Oh, how many people
Yes.
are actually?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe.
With us?
I think
freedom,
there is
real freedom.
Yeah, I think
And-
most Americans are pretty close to the middle, and if they thought that their individual liberties were at stake, they would be
But
fighting.
can I
a
tell you
lot
something?
harder.
They don't believe it. I've talked to so
I know they don't.
many
That's what I'm
people
saying. They
who
don't
don't
know.
believe it. And I'm just like, where are you?
But
Yeah.
they keep us silent on the social media platforms. That's been proven.
Yeah,
The social media platforms working with the government. All right, to silence voices. Yes, Lonaiah?
Speaking of social media platforms, what do we think about Tucker Carlson going on to Twitter to have his
I
show?
think he's going to do real well.
I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah,
I didn't know
Because
that.
Elon Musk, it just came out yesterday.
just came out yesterday.
Because Elon Musk is over Twitter, so it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see what happens there. Because I
Well,
don't know how I feel about Elon Musk. My
he
jury is
is-
still out on that one.
Well, I mean, before Biden came to office, Elon Musk was very much, he's a libertarian. He's not on the conservative side. He's not on the liberal side. He's on the individual liberty side, which has led him to some interesting life choices. So if you look into Elon Musk, you're not going to see him as a saint at all.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just wondering if
he's going to stick up for people having the ability to have an individual life. And
or is that what they want him to seem like? I'm a skeptic. So are they making him seem like that on purpose right now?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said, he's no saint.
Right, and that's fine.
But I think he's on the idea and the side of individual liberty.
But I do like the Tucker Carlson Twitter thing. I think it'll be interesting.
I think it's going to be a good spot for him. I think it's probably a really good play for Twitter, because Twitter has not been making a lot of money since Musk bought the company.
Well, that's because he got rid of all the bots and people's verified accounts and
all the spam
and all the celebrities. Yeah. This is just funny. They're complaining because they were like, not certified anymore, and he's like, all I'm asking for is $8 a month.
$8.
I know.
But there are more people in America that are pro-liberty than anywhere else in the world. And that is what is holding all this back. There are 194 member nations of the World Health Organization. Each nation gets one vote. Yep. It doesn't matter what your population is. It doesn't matter about your donation numbers. They all only get one vote.
Well, what are the donation numbers if you have 194 countries only giving 16%?
That's why the American system, the republic system, has an electoral college, so that your votes don't overshadow the rest of the country just because your state has more people. Just because you can't.
Weren't they trying to get rid of that?
Some people.
Yeah, they want to get rid of that. They just want the population. Yes.
Some Democratic states have more power than others, and then it would just.
That's what they're trying hard.
New York and California would just overshadow a bunch of other states that would have no stay at all.
The big influence with the WHO is not the 194 nations; it's the 400 stakeholders. All right, in the WHO,
silent majority.
Most of them steak.
Most of them World Economic Forum cronies. You guys got to let me blow through about 20 pages here. So I heard James Roguski call this fascism. All right, remember Hitler? He was a fascist. Okay,
yes, he was.
Mussolini out of Italy, a fascist. Right? What is the WEF promoting in fascism? With the 21st century update, Mussolini defined fascism as government and corporations working together. Mm-hmm. Tell me you don't have a form of fascism here in America today with the censorship in the media that the government is requesting, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Right. Working with the social media platforms, working with CNN, the different news stations. Now you've got a third arm of fascism growing in America through a bunch of nonprofit foundations. These nonprofits donate money to the World Health Organization.
Yep.
Then from the World Health Organization, the money goes into projects that's contracted through certain businesses. And those businesses many times are owned or indirectly owned by the people who donated the money in the first place. It's a big money laundering scheme.
So basically that's a World Economic Forum people.
Yeah, it's your World Health Organization in action.
Right.
This was a public statement by Chinese delegate to the World Health Organization. He was requesting that their meetings take place in secret so the public cannot watch them. They don't even hide that they want. Ambassador Pamela Hamamoto from the U.S. agreed. She agreed. Yeah, we need the World Health Organization, who wants to look out for the people of the world. We should have our meetings in secret.
Joke.
And all these WHO negotiations take place in secret. The public, the people's whose health they're talking about, have no say. And really, Psalm 31:13, for I've heard the slander of many. Terror is on every side, while they schemed together against us. These are the people of God. They plotted to take our lives, right? Mm-hmm. Psalm 21:11, for they planned evil against you. They conceived a mischievous plot, which they are not able to perform. That's a good one to pray. Pray that in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. They're not able to perform against the Christian church, against our viewers, listeners, and subscribers.
That's right.
Isaiah 32:17. The instruments and methods of the fraudulent and greedy for gain are evil. He devises wicked devices to ruin the poor and the lowly with lying words, even when the plea of the needy is just and right. Psalm 28:2. Drag me not away with the wicked, with the workers of iniquity, who speak peace with their neighbors, but malice and mischief are in their hearts. Yeah, that's the who. We're just looking out for the health of all mankind.
Yeah.
All mankind.
It'll be fine.
That's our goal.
All we need is
You'll
the
own
power
nothing
to do
and be
it.
happy.
Yeah, you can ask 99.9% of the people in the world, who is it that represents your nation at the World Health Organization? Who's your one vote? I mean,
Who is?
nobody knows. This is not democracy. They're not representing our wants and needs at the World Health Organization. Our delegate that is representing the U.S. and the WHO is named Mara Burr. All right? Try emailing her.
Excuse me?
Try getting through it. Mara Burr. Did you know
She
that?
related to Aaron Burr.
The chief of the UN, and listen to this, the chief of the UN, Antonio Guterres, you know what he did before he became the chief of the UN? He led the Socialist International Movement.
Interesting.
This is the
And now
chief
he's leading the UN.
of the UN. This is why our former president pulled us out of the World Health Organization and said constantly, the United Nations is a joke. They are not for us. They are not for freedom. There is a socialist agenda that you can trace all the way back to the beginning of the UN. People don't know this, but there's been a former Nazi who was appointed to run the UN at one time. The first Secretary of General of the UN, who everyone thought was a loyal American guy, played a major role in just founding the UN, was actually turned out to be a spy for Joseph Stalin. This is the guy, the first Secretary General, was a spy. The guy was the chairman of the conference that wrote the original UN Charter, was a spy for Cold War Soviet Union. This Antonio Guterres guy, who's the leader of the UN now, was previously the leader of the Socialist International Movement. Can I tell you what that is? It's the largest alliance of socialist and communist political parties in the world. That's the leader of the UN. And repeating the words of Alex Newman, many of the members of the Socialist International Movement, this group that the guy who's running the UN was previously leading, many of these members literally have the blood of millions on their hands. Absolutely. These are the kind of people that are at the UN. And it's kind of a merging, like fascism and socialism, who are really close. And you could say little brother of fascism.
Fascism is a part of socialism.
Yes, and communism. They're all kind of pulling these, really, you could say, satanic doctrines between the WEF, WHO, and UN. And you have a little sideshow, called technocracy, right?
Definitely.
This is the belief that scientists and engineers can best decide how we live.
Right.
Okay? That's all wound up in that satanic little ball that they're creating for the serfs around the world. A historian at Georgetown named Carol Quigley, who was a mentor of Bill Clinton, exposes all this and calls it a feudalistic structure. Now, like medieval times, like I alluded to earlier, the serfs working the rented land, giving your profits to the noble on the hill and the castle. And the reason he exposed it was not because he disagreed with it. He just didn't like that they were pushing all this in secret, right? Keeping it under the table. He thought it should be publicized. That everyone should know that we should be real open
what a
about
great guy.
Well,
because
it's good news that you'll have nothing.
We'll be excited.
You'll be
to
happy.
hear about it.
University
Why
of
wouldn't we with
Georgetown
these
historian.
elites running the world? I'm excited.
He was a mentor of Bill Clinton, called it a feudalist structure. And so we're combining, and they think this is right. He was for it. We're combining this with the World Economic Forum, you're going to own nothing by 2030 and be happy. Think about this. If we're going to be happy and own nothing, the feudalists, the overlords, the nobles are the ones we're renting it from.
Well, and think about this.
But they're going to own stuff and be happy.
It's not only that you own nothing physical of like items that you own yourself, but you're not going to own your own opinion. You're not going to own your own rights. No. It's not just about the physical material things. It's about what you are able to even say and what your own individual autonomy. That's the even scarier part of it.
Just like in medieval feudalist age, the serfs didn't own anything. They rented the land.
Yeah. And if a noble wants what they have, the noble gets. Yeah.
And we will exist at their pleasure. Again, they don't hide the fact that they think there should only be 500,000 or 500 million people in the world because it's much easier to control. It's much easier to control than 8 billion. How are you going to control 8 billion people, right? And so they've got to get it down. And so you've got a combining of all these totalitarian ideals with the techno-cult crap coming from Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab's little weirdo scientist, Hava Harari.
Oh, yeah.
He's this bald guy. He looks like a bad guy. He's possessed. He's a Jew.
He is. He's an atheist Jew.
He's a Jew. Says we're all going to upgrade ourselves to gods.
Right.
That's what he thinks the ruling class is going to do. Right?
Well, yeah, he's already talking about editing the human genome and being able to use that tech.
It's quick, Jim.
Is it that same thing?
Yeah,
well, this is just I watched a video clip on him, and artificial intelligence is like a really big deal. But this Noah Harari guy, who is an atheist, he said that he's warning that AI can create religious texts and may inspire new cults that we will worship, and it'll like sway us from God and bring us to like new levels of relationships and religions and worship.
And think about Revelations, the image that speaks, obviously that has
and Jack Hibbs kind of went into this, like if they worship little like Buddha idols, what are they going to do when they see this amazing? If you've seen the AI art generator, they can make it look so amazing.
Really cool things.
And if you're listening to, they're saying like, this person will create a religious text, and Jack Hibbs was saying, you don't think there's going to be a demonic spirit on that?
Absolutely.
That's like pulling people to it, because you're going to be like, oh, that sounds right. That sounds good. That sounds biblical.
Listen, the world is just standing by, doing nothing, while we have this major threat, not just to our freedom, our well-being, but to humanity as a whole. And all these forces coming together with the World Health Organization, World Economic Forum, United Nations, are totalitarian through and through. What's the definition of totalitarian? Relating to a system of government that is centralized and dictatorial. They're dictators and requires complete subservience to the state. Ugh. That's totalitarianism. Yep. And Jordan Shashatel describes all these guys working together. He says they're like two competing chess players, playing by the same set of rules.
Yep.
Okay, but they are exclusively for them, and they have this agreed upon rule set, right? Who we're talking about, the WHO, WEF, UN, and everyone else is beneath them, and they're subject to a complete different set of rules.
Absolutely.
And the World Economic Forum and these other two organizations navigate their relationships for themselves. They are the class that they care about, and they are free to compete amongst themselves, writing certain sets of rules of the chess game they're playing, and then you have already everybody else that they're going to rule. I just really pray and hope that the rapture comes before all these yahoos trick the world into complete obedience to them.
I have a quick question. This is just because we were talking about how these people have a lot of patience, right?
Yep.
So do we think that when these organizations were created, that this was their intent, or were they really three different entities that realized, hey, we could all three work together? No. And isn't it interesting that there's three of them?
Yeah. Again, another false trinity.
All right, exactly.
I just wanted to tie back to what you were saying about the AI and the images that speak. Have we talked about Project Bluebeam? It It was a NASA / FBI / CIA type project. And really, it's about a lot of the UFO sightings.
Oh, yeah.
And that a lot of that is projected images in the sky. And what
That makes sense.
And what some people have surmised is that eventually they're going to use that tech that they have developed that put images in the sky. They're going to see images of Jesus and Buddha and all the other religions at some point.
Wow.
Allah, and be able to come into one image and have everybody feel like, oh, these were all God at the same time, just from someone else's perspective, and try to lure people into a one world religion.
Yeah, I can see where
using
that
images in the sky.
Well, listen, I hope the rapture
Yeah.
comes before these guys trick the world.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to get your 10 revised Roman Empire states.
Yeah.
It's where the Antichrist is going to come out of. And I know you've heard it all from us before, but I just listen to this. You have to listen to this. We're supposed to restrain this.
Yes.
Okay, while we're here.
Yep.
Right? We don't just let it in. All right?
Stand.
It says 2 Thessalonians 2:4, who it's talking about the Antichrist. He opposes, exalts himself so proudly and insolently against and over all that is called God or that is worshipped, even to his actually taking a seat in the temple of God, proclaiming that he himself is God. That's the middle of the tribulation.
Yeah.
But listen to what it says. It backs up a little. And now you know what is restraining him from being revealed at right now. It is so that he may be manifested, revealed in his appointed time. For the mystery of lawlessness, this is verse 7, 2 Thessalonians 2, that hidden principle of rebellion against constituted authority is already here. The spirit of Antichrist is already at work in the world.
Yeah.
We're seeing that.
Yeah.
But it is restrained
Right.
only until he who restrains, that's us, that's you, is taken out of the way.
Yeah.
That's the rapture.
Right.
Once we're taken out of the way, there's nothing stopping this, right? You can't restrain anything if you're not watching what's going on. And I'm telling you what's going on. All these people are going to wind up in the tribulation. And I think they're going to see this low-level podcast will be one of the last things that gets wiped away.
Yeah.
People are going to say, they're going to wipe away the Charlie Kirks, right?
Of course.
And the
Hibbs,
Jimmy Evans,
Billy
right?
Crone.
But people are going to say,
Do you think Ben Shapiro will still be here?
Yes. No, he'll get wiped too, right?
He's
Oh, you
Jewish.
mean-
I don't know if he's a
I'm just,
Christian.
Oh,
I'm
you
just
don't know
throwing
if
it
he's a
out there.
Christian?
No, he's
He's
definitely not a Christian.
He's Jewish.
He is very Jewish.
Yeah.
So he's a practicing Jew?
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Well, that's a whole nother story we don't have time to go into. Anyways, listen.
And next week on the
Shapiro is
final
his
hour.
last name.
Yes, we've watched him.
Oh, well, he
Yeah.
wears a yarmulke half the time on.
I had
on screen.
awesome neighbors with the last
Okay.
name Shapiro growing up.
Listen, you know, people are going to say, I think this podcast is going to be on for a long time.
I think so too.
During the tribulation.
We'll be
Before-
part of like the black market renegade system. I love it.
because they'll go, it takes them
Little
a long
resistance.
time to get rid of everybody. There'd be so much chaos too, right?
Absolutely.
But the beginning of the end game, I'm warning you, is when they push through a global digital ID.
Yep.
Ugh.
Then you will know we are close. We are close to the end. And that is the open door they need.
That's in this amendments.
Yes, that is their meal ticket to putting the human race under their thumbs and controlling their lives. Everything they eat, everywhere you want to go, what you own, everything starts.
Everything.
The beginning is with the global ID. They want to put a global vaccination passport through the international health regulation process. They really want this bad. And, everyone's thinking, it's a special health passport. It
It's
says
going to
I
make
can
your
travel.
life so easy.
It's safer.
Yeah.
It's easier. What happens with this ID passport, each nation is saying, we're not letting you in
Right.
unless you've got all the vaccinations
Yep.
and health updates that the World Health Organization wants.
And your green climate score is also
Oh, yes,
good.
your ESG.
Yeah,
is
that'll
out.
be on there.
ESG
Yeah.
will be also part of it.
Yeah.
Convenient.
And they're saying, well, We're just protecting our citizens. What they're doing is restraining movement from country to country. That's where it starts.
Just like COVID.
That's the first
Do you
step.
remember
Yes,
COVID?
yeah.
Where
You couldn't go anywhere.
can't go anywhere. Stay at your homes.
That's the first step.
Do the essential
What
travel.
was it called?
Slow the curve. Flatten the curve.
Flatten the curve.
Yeah. What was the? I
That
don't
was
remember
it.
the other part of it.
You'll only be able to travel
2 weeks.
from country to country if you're in line with the World Health Organization's rules and regulations. The U.S. wouldn't let Novak Djokovic
Man,
play in the U.S. Open.
don't
Okay?
mess with the joke.
We don't even have the
Vaccine.
There
vaccine.
was no
Last I
vaccine
checked,
mandate.
he was the number 1 tennis player in the world.
Yes.
But because he didn't have a vaccine, none of us were required.
Other people didn't have the vaccine.
They
but
tried to push it.
He
They tried to push that.
wasn't given into the.
They fired all the New York
junk.
City, emergency workers, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Push them out.
Yep.
Yes.
And we're not requiring it from our own people. But if you don't have it, buddy, then you're not getting in. In China, you have municipalities using
Yeah,
these
we've talked
digital
about that.
passports to give their citizens permission just to move.
ESGs.
You guys, they would have to show their passport to cross the street, and they'd be like, "You're red. Go back."
That's what's going on in
They
China.
needed a green light.
So and China's kind of like a guinea pig for all this stuff. And remember now, China
Well, yeah, 'cause it's
has a
already-
lot of say in the UN.
Yep.
Not to mention the World Health Organization. Not to mention the World Economic Forum mentioning that because
Yeah.
they meet in Beijing now on a regular basis. Think about this. Even in locations in Canada, they had these applications on their phones where if it showed up red, you couldn't get on the bus. So we've already seen this, right?
What in the world?
You see in certain places in Canada, you see communists or even Canada, who's, he's the son of a communist, this digital ID thing.
Jim just slipped that one in there real fast.
Yeah, look that one up, okay?
Justin True.
Find out Castro's. It's a different level, okay? But you see Canada much farther along than us because our states have power to shut things down.
Yep.
All right? In Europe, their way of government are set up, and even Canada, one doofus bureaucrat can make a decision, and suddenly you've got a population stuck with these digital IDs on their phones that limit their movements, as we've already seen in China. What goes on with the movement?
China.
Your social credit score. Okay?
Well, remember that Ford guy in Canada? He did a press conference where he was crying and apologizing to everybody for what he put them through during COVID.
Yeah.
Who?
He was he's one of the Providence,
One of the
whatever they are
governors,
over there.
more or less.
Yeah. In Canada.
So he was originally a COVID or a.
But
He was
for
part
the whole
of
thing, and then he realized it was
part of
wrong.
administrating the lockdowns.
Oh,
and creating chaos in people's lives and mandating things, and
he
everyone
was
kind of
sorry?
pushed. Well,
He was
crying. I don't know if it was
crying?
Yeah, he was crying.
He seemed resentful,
You mean remorseful?
remorseful. He was probably resentful too.
He was probably mad. He had to go
Yeah.
apologize. It could have been a play just to get a revote. Who knows? I don't really
Yeah.
trust anybody, honestly. So the only person you can trust is yourself. That's what the
well,
serial killer podcast
Jesus.
lady says.
The only person you can trust is Jesus.
That's true. Thank you, John. Trust in the Lord with all
true.
your heart.
I'm not laughing about that. It's true.
lean not into your own understanding.
Proverbs 3.
In all your ways,
In all your ways,
him.
acknowledge Him.
He
and
will-
He
will direct your
set
path.
your path straight.
The Lord will perfect that which concerns you. Okay,
That's verse 6.
Anyways,
Yeah, it is.
keep in mind what was going on. Jordan Shashatel describes in the middle of COVID hysteria, he reminds us, he had to travel to New York. He was not vaccinated. He had to get takeout from a restaurant and eat it outside like a savage in the
But
middle
see,
of the...
remember you told us that certain states mandated things?
Yeah.
New York?
And he was saying, he's like, this was not a vaccination pass. It was a movement pass.
Right.
Is what they had in New York.
Movement pass.
Klaus Schwab says the fourth industrial revolution, summing it up in his book, will be the fusion of our biological and our digital identities.
The fusion of the biological and the digital.
It's way better when John says it. It's close.
That's what I picture Klaus sounding like.
I was hoping John was going to bring
It's
out the
not
Klaus.
far off, actually.
It's actually not. Have you not heard? No, you have heard him before. You said John sounds like him. You have.
Really?
We've watched him.
I read his excerpts.
The guy who looks like
Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
Well, he looks like the guy from Spectre and James Bond. He's like,
he's just.
welcome to our evil organization.
He's from Germany, right?
Yeah.
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 Ravensburg is what I read.
Listen,
Ravensburg.
he's defining
Concentration camp.
the fourth industrial revolution. What he wants.
It's a fusion of our biological and our digital identities.
Okay, look farther into the future. If you don't have these passports or certain identifications, it has to do with you not being able to go to the grocery store, access a bank. But long range,
Didn't that happen in World War II?
Didn't it happen
They
in
had
COVID?
they made them but not to that extent where like you couldn't buy
rationing.
food unless you had
you had ration
ration
coupons,
cards and
basically.
you couldn't travel unless you had all your papers and they
The
would come.
American people?
Please.
No, I'm talking about the Jewish people.
Of
in
course,
World War
of
II.
course. I was like, wow. But we did it
Papers,
to the
please.
Japanese.
Yeah.
We just locked the Japanese Americans up in
In
camps.
the middle of
I don't know.
the desert.
Okay.
I only read World War II books.
You should.
That
That
was
is
World
World
War
War II.
I didn't read that. I'm not
And
that part. I'm
Japanese in
more of a
America-
resistance female reader.
Japanese immigrants in America got put into concentration
That's
camps
sad.
of their own.
That's
When
horrible.
half of them wanted to fight.
Yeah.
They wanted to fight.
They wanted
There
to
were
fight
famous
for.
Japanese units.
Yeah.
Honestly, in World War II, there was
Absolutely.
one really famous one
Be part of.
that fought in Italy.
Yeah.
We already have people
good.
around the world receiving microchips. Sweden, it's like it's in style, right? Thousands upon thousands of people in Sweden have taken microchips under the guise of making payments for bills. Or under the guise of a future vaccine.
Look, it's so cool.
Remember in Wisconsin they were calling them chips and salsa parties,
Yeah.
and they were getting chips put in.
That one.
yeah.
That one company was
Yeah.
was doing that.
So you can like unlock. I would never get a chip in my arm to unlock a door here.
Like Iron Man.
I would love to be Iron Man, but I won't get a chip to unlock
You
a
can
door.
tell Lonaiah drank just a little.
Yeah,
cup.
I did.
But look,
I'm a little livelier, guys.
all this has been planned out. This whole setup way before COVID. The objective is to make everyone dependent on this global system. And the basic is starting with a global ID. Everybody is going to be so dependent on this global digital system. And if you're not dependent on it, then you won't be able to interact with society.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with the global identification system, when it's rolled out, okay, you'll have this social credit score system, but it'll be called something else,
Something like the ESG.
which is how much energy are you using? How much gas have you been using? What did you say on Facebook? How much, and in the end, how much meat have you eaten? Right?
Yeah.
Have you seen that the artificial intelligence, they had one of those people rewrite Genesis so that it was vegetarian related, so that vegetarians could read it and not feel like angry at.
Condemned.
Yeah.
I don't.
Just
Nothing
a little bit
against
of
I don't even
information.
know what to say.
No, just we'll take that one with a moment of silence.
Yes.
Okay.
You could fight against the system, but we'll just give you an apartment. You don't need to have to do anything. Just be part of the system. You will own nothing, but you'll be very happy. This will be great.
I can tell you, if I don't have the right amount of protein in a day, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
No,
And that's
was
the
gonna
you're not
cover
gonna you're
Yeah.
not gonna have a lot of protein. Not at least not.
Well, then they're not getting
animal-based.
anything from me.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
kind of like
I don't
yesterday.
think they were
yesterday.
counting on you.
Like yesterday. No,
When Nail was
They
finished.
weren't counting on.
I was
Lonaiah
finished.
By
all
2
right.
We're
o'clock.
working on the podcast, and I was like,
She's like, an email pops up, and she's like,
Son of a gun.
and I was like, who is that?
Jim's like, ding, what happened? Where's that
So I
from?
was
Is
like,
that your
who-
phone or the
Here,
computer?
let me see that email that just popped up. She's like, no, you're not reading it.
I said, we don't need
We
to deal with that
finish the
right now.
podcast. This is at 2 o'clock. And I was like, well, just let me read it. Then you're going to go try to fix it.
Yeah, I did. I did say that.
And I
what
did.
did Jim do? He read the email and he walked out. And I was like, I'm done.
I said, I'm
I don't
going
care
to
if he
talk to
comes
him right
back
now.
in and wants anything else done on this podcast. I'm not typing one more word.
And I don't listen.
I did
don't
type
have. That's why I
more
don't
words.
have an iPhone, because I will try to do everything right then, everything that comes in right then,
Right now.
and so it's just kind of how I am. It's just let's fix it now.
But you don't want to look like you got nothing else going on. It's like, oh, I got an email. I got to do something right now. You got to. That'd be a little.
Is it that's what
Play
it is?
cool.
What it
Play
looks
cool.
like? Make it look like. Make it look like.
That's it. I do these
it look a
games in
certain
my
way?
head. Like,
Oh no, it's not a big deal, but
I'll get to it when I get to it.
Listen, your social credit score eventually will even be involved with what you say on Facebook. You'll have a score. In the end, how much what are you eating? How much beef are you eating? What I'm saying is your access to schools, your access to banks, if you want a job, your access to medical care will all be dependently on this digitally controlled system. They cannot implement these long-range goals until they get the first thing, a global ID that shuts people down traveling country to country. That's the beginning. And this does not end with having a digital ID on your smartphone.
Yeah.
This is what they'll tell you to access government benefits.
Of course, that's how it's starting.
you gotta have your benefits.
I feel like we've talked about this before. Like
Listen.
certain states are rolling out
Yeah, they're
pilot
doing that.
programs.
Yeah.
And you're dumb if you believe that. If you believe that, I'm sorry, you are a doofus. It goes way past that.
Absolutely.
Way past that.
So
I know
for
I'm not-
people like Jim who have flip phones, how's that going to work
they're
for
going to
them?
make you get an
They-
iPhone. And
well,
they'll probably give you one.
They give people who cross the southern border a cell phone to try to track them. So of course they'll give you your free one.
Everyone will have
You'll
to
get a
have one.
free phone from the
Absolutely.
government, Jim.
Maybe you can get like
Oh,
an
imagine
80s
that.
style.
Imagine that phone.
Maybe you can get an
Yeah.
80s style pager instead of a phone. Be great.
Oh my gosh, pagers! Remember when it would like someone think, and you could like say hello or hi if you knew how to do it right.
Right.
Otherwise, there's like a number you had to call back, and you'd be like, stinking thing.
It was the tool of drug
I didn't have a
dealers.
pager, but I knew people who
I
had
did
one.
not have a pager either.
Like you page someone to say, "Call me now."
Like, no. It's
Yeah.
like the worst text
That was the
message
point of a
ever.
pager.
Yeah, but then they would go to a payphone and call you.
I know, but like, what was so important, everybody, that we
Drugs.
needed to pay?
Drugs.
Doctors had
I just needed to get a hold of my mom.
Lawyers had them.
And I probably asked my mom a dumb question too when I would page her. It'd probably like be the dumbest question ever. And
Speaking of daughters, over the last couple of years, I actually had the conversation with my daughter because in her science class, they were talking about how bad meat and beef and cows are
of
for
course
the environment.
they were.
That was in Maple Grove.
Here we go.
That was part of the science because it was
Did she
bad for the
become a
water
vegetarian?
table. No.
Okay, that's good.
And I was like, are you kidding me? That is bad for the water table? That's bad for the water cycle?
Wow, but like,
Water always returns back to the water cycle because when you grow a cow, things are done with everything there. You can't stop the transition and the
but see, they're going to talk
back
to the
into
kids
water.
who are then going to be
That's
like,
what I'm saying is, so they
then
already
they're gonna
have
hire
the
little
seeds
influencers
planted.
on TikTok and
Right.
social media outlets that say,
they
don't eat it,
already-
it's bad for you.
Right. They
Like Greta
already have
Thornburg or whatever her
the
name is.
seeds planted in the education system to be able to tell
Totally.
them that meat is bad.
Give it 20 years.
Yeah.
I will
it's
never
already
not
gone.
eat meat.
Are you getting through
I know,
this
but
okay,
they're
Jerry?
not counting on you.
Is Jerry getting through this?
John keeps saying they're not counting on me, but I matter right now. I'm
Yeah.
a number to
well,
them.
you need to keep speaking up. That's
Yeah.
your consent.
I'm a threat. Your
and
silence,
your silence is consent.
And
Absolutely.
Remember the Fourth Amendment. You have a right to privacy, right?
Privacy.
So because the next step is they're going to try to conglomerate all
Yeah.
these medical records across America and all these
Yep.
large companies.
Yep.
Like they've got to bring them all together.
But if they
And you
sign the treaty, we lose that.
yes, you're right.
Well, they're
And-
going to use all that HIPAA stuff against you and know exactly what's going on with you.
Yeah, and they are
Good thing
already.
I don't go to the doctor.
What?
I don't go to the doctor. I haven't been to the doctor in like 5 years,
So
What-
you have been to the doctor.
but not for a really long time.
They are already implementing
where you are.
the global
do.
digital self-certification network. They're building this network already, even through though the amendments that have been put forward in the World Health Organization from the European nations that want a vaccine certificate, a testing certificate, a recovery certificate,
Oh my
along with
gosh.
a traveler locator form, along with passenger
They're creating
health
more work.
declaration forms. Yes, this is all the stuff that goes into your that'll be on your phone.
That is ridiculous.
This is what they want. This system is being built out. There are states that have voluntary systems that people
Yeah.
can opt into. Listen to it. It's a trick. I'm
is.
telling you. tricking people into believing it's for their convenience. And that's how this thing is going to get all this information and all these people to sign up is it's going to be for your convenience.
Yep.
They'll probably do the same thing with the mark of the beast.
Well, for sure.
It's for your convenience and our record-keeping needs.
It's for your convenience and our record-keeping needs. This will be great. You won't have to track anything.
Isn't that a
do it
part of the
for
church
you.
offering?
Yeah.
It is. That's, that's your dad's
I don't
without
say
the
it.
accent.
I don't say it's for your record-keeping needs.
But it's for their record-keeping needs.
And our record-keeping needs.
Well, they have to send when the church tells you that they're keeping records.
It's for tax
It's
purposes.
for tax
They
purposes. It
have to
gives
send
so
you.
you can know how much you can deduct from your tax because of charitable giving.
Yes.
But anyways, it's
I wasn't
not
ripping on anything.
no.
I was just utilizing it.
Well, he was really
spin
good
on words.
at
Yeah.
saying it the exact same way.
It is. It's like I've been here since I was born, so
exactly.
it's like ingrained in my head.
Listen, all this information, that's how they're going to get all these people to sign up for this stuff is they're going to say it's for your convenience. But I'll just say you won't think it's real convenient in 2029 when you find that you're welded shut inside your apartment
They
because
did that in China.
you ate too much beef. That's what I'm saying.
They welded people in. Sorry,
you ate too
Jim.
much beef and you didn't say the right thing on Facebook, and they weld you in your apartment.
They were welding people
that's-
in China.
That's
wild.
Look at China, right? And that's the way it will be. There's so much more we could say, but I just felt like it was God that I tuned into this program called the International Reporters Roundtable on NTD News because this stuff is all hidden unless you're looking for it. And I found 3 experts that are trying to shout this stuff from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Besides these guys having educational credentials, they are professional investigative reporters. This is not a conspiracy. This is the real deal.
Yep.
And it's just like you said, nobody believes it.
No.
They don't believe it. They think they're
don't
all out
believe
for
it.
our good. Oh, that's what they think. They wouldn't be doing that.
If you've tried to explain this to people,
It's
they
impossible.
laugh at you.
You're
Like I sent a text to somebody this morning about the link to action, and they said, "Haha, okay." Well,
Who said that?
a family member, one of my my sisters. No, my kids hear all about this. They believe. I sign anything that works for our good. I had a neighbor show up to have me sign a petition the other day because they're trying to change the voting in Minnesota.
You said.
Yeah. So, because you know how you were talking before, how like you have like so many votes per person. Well, they want to make it so like certain cities have more of a voting power than other cities. So like obviously more democratic cities would have a bigger.
Yeah, in other words, the Twin Cities would have more voting power is what they want.
Right.
Because there's more population in the Twin Cities. Do you get what I'm saying?
And they are all left-leaning.
Left.
But I'm like, people think this is,
Incredibly
they don't
left-leaning.
understand that this is really something happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It is. And
Yeah.
we're supposed to be restraining.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Well,
but,
I mean, it's the Met Council trying to reach for more and more power.
It's like the what was the I mean, I'm not comparing ourselves to him, but what was John the Baptist called?
It was a renegade,
We're a voice in the wilderness.
a voice in the wilderness. That's right.
Hey.
Can you imagine being alive during his time? He had like a honey belt and like his hair was crazy.
A honey belt.
Belt.
He was wearing
He's
a
a dirty
skin.
guy, and
He was
just wants
wearing
to
a
baptize
skin
you,
and-
and like you're
He's
gonna go
wild.
listen to this guy, and you're gonna be like, wow.
But he was a big
Well, because
deal
he was off in the wilderness eating locusts. And
Yeah, that's what
honey.
I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
he had a honey belt,
he
didn't
had
he?
to have power
What is a
too.
honey belt?
I don't know, like a belt of honey.
What are you talking
like
about?
a crazy
He
guy.
ate honey.
Oh, he ate honey.
A
But
honey
think of his, like,
belt?
sticky honey.
Hey, listen, Jesus called him the best prophet ever. That's why I think he had power. Do you know the Jews sent a whole delegation from Jerusalem to ask John the Baptist, who are you? Are you Elijah? Are
So
you
he was
the
a
Christ?"
threat.
He was a threat.
So
he
the
was.
crazy
And-
honey loving guy.
And from
why
20,
he chopped his
25
head off.
miles, that's 25 miles they traveled to get to John the Baptist because he was in the desert out by
Yeah.
Jericho.
Think of how his word spread, though.
So you
Back
know
in that
he
day.
had miracles. He had miracles.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely had miracles.
I would have let his sticky hands touch my head.
I love honey.
Look, he's eating honey. He's gonna be sticky.
But he's got a skin on his.
Yes,
he's
he's wearing
like,
animal skin. That's what I'm
So he
saying, like,
just wiped his
this
hand
guy's-
before he do that. Don't worry about it.
Just when you picture it, it's just great.
Anyways, I was trying to focus on the fact that we're just.
Where do I get a honey belt?
Where with that voice in it?
Or do you want on Amazon?
I've got
One
some
of the
honey
big
chapstick.
corporations of the World Economic Forum. Yeah.
I know they're really convenient.
It's that voice in the wilderness. Wilderness.
Hey.
You need to start listening.
I did. I listened.
me.
Wow. Sorry.
Revelation is true.
It's all coming. Wilderness. The voice in the wilderness is from down south. That's all that means.
I thought they called John the Baptist. I thought they called
They
him.
did. They called him the voice in the wilderness.
Okay. All right. But anyways,
You're right.
We're the voice from Living Word.
They call him Honey Hands.
And on that,
And he loved honeycombs.
we're signing off with
Nothing but love for all of you guys.
honey belts. God bless you guys. We love you.